Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So I'm doing a video that somebody actually requested me to do. It's going to be a little different than what they wanted, but somebody asked me to rank all 30 NBA teams 1 through 30, and I kind of did that. But I did it in the respective conference. So we're doing teams 1 through 15 in each conference, where I rank them. If you're a Pacers fan, you're probably going to like what I have to say about the Pacers in this video, so stay tuned for that. I am going to be talking about the Eastern Conference last, though, because the Eastern Conference was the easiest to do, I think. The Western Conference, I think, was the hardest because there's been a lot of change-up in the Western Conference. And there's a lot of big changes coming to the Western Conference. I'm at a point now where I feel like the Eastern Conference is kind of solidified, where the Western Conference is still a toss-up. I reserve my right to change this list only because Lauri Markkanen is still on the trade block. Right now, the Golden State Warriors seem to be the biggest suitor to land him. They're the ones easily making the hardest push to get him. So, even where I have Golden State ranked right now, if they trade for Lauri Markkanen, it could easily move them up 3 or 4 spots. So it's just the idea, like, this list is very rough at the moment. There's still free agency going on. You know, there's small moves that teams could make that could change it. So this is like where I rank all the NBA teams, like, right now in their conference as of July 15th, 2024, okay? So we're going to start with the Western Conference, and the first team is the Minnesota Timberwolves. I have them as number 1. I think Anthony Edwards has officially arrived. Karl Anthony Towns seems to have learned his role with the Minnesota Timberwolves. You know, the Minnesota Timberwolves have kind of decided, like, they've figured it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though I thought they would never figure it out, they managed to do it. You know, Cat has, like, last season really improved. Rudy Gobert has learned his role. They have Jaden McDaniels. I really like their draft pick in Rob Dillingham. I like the idea that they traded for him. I know his summer league performance hasn't been great, but he's still a damn good player. They still have Mike Conley. There's a lot to like about their team. Now, I understand they lost Kyle Anderson to the Golden State Warriors, but Minnesota is still going to be a big powerhouse team in the Western Conference. They were in first place for quite a bit during the season, and then OKC obviously surpassed them, so that's why I have Minnesota number 1. I think Minnesota finishes the regular season number 1. I don't think they lose to the Dallas Mavericks again in the fashion that they did. Dallas, to me, I think is a little overhyped, what you're going to see in this video, but number 1 in the Western Conference, number 1 seed, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. Number 2 is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Listen, they're a great fucking team. Chet Holmgren came in, did his thing, was a way better rookie than I think we all actually expected. We knew he was good, but he came in and it seemed like he just immediately was an impact player. They traded for Alex Caruso. They signed Isaiah Hartenstein. Jalen Williams shot a fucking phenomenal from 3. I think Jalen Williams shot like 42% from 3 in the regular season this past year. Don't quote me on that, but OKC is a team that will be in the top 3 in the West. Like, they are a damn good basketball team, and I think it's only getting better. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be in the MVP conversation. I even think Anthony Edwards as well is going to be in the MVP conversation this upcoming year, or Karl Anthony Towns, one of the two. So OKC is a team that I like them. OKC is a team that I don't think anybody's going to argue that they're going to be in the top 3. So I have them at number 2. Number 3 is probably going to come as a surprise to people, but I got the Memphis Grizzlies. Listen, Memphis is a great fucking team when they're healthy. They still have Marcus Smart. They still have Jaren Jackson Jr. They're finally going to get Ja Morant back. I mean, last year they did get Ja Morant back, but he's not suspended, not going to be injured. Ja Morant is arguably an MVP level player when he's playing. If he just keeps the fucking off-court shit subtle, Memphis should be like a top 5 seed in the West. Memphis is really good. I like what they've been doing. They brought back Luke Kennard. Yes, they lost Steven Adams, but still, like, this is a solid defensive team. Yes, their bench unit needs a little bit of work, but they were running on fumes last year. This is a team that getting Ja Morant back is going to be a huge change for them. And I honestly think they finish ahead of the Denver Nuggets. Like, they're a team that I think is poised for something big. Like, they're getting into that, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're a team that I think is going to do some big shit. They still have Desmond Bane. Like, this is a solid roster, and I think people last year kind of forgot about them, and the year before, because they've had a lot of unfortunate shit happen. Like, the shit with Ja Morant was kind of out of their control, like the Instagram stuff. Then he comes back and he gets injured, I think only a handful of games in, and he's out for the season. Memphis is a team to look out for. They are sneaky good. They're a team that could potentially make the Western Conference Finals. They are that good. That's part of the reason why I'm not so high on Dallas anymore. So we got the Memphis Grizzlies at number 3. Number 4 is the Denver Nuggets. Now, 4 through 9, I think in the Western Conference is not as solidified as it has been in years past. But the Denver Nuggets did lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope this offseason to the Orlando Magic, he's now in the Eastern Conference. They also lost Bruce Brown and didn't get him back from the Toronto Raptors, but that's something I could see changing. I don't know why, but even though the Denver Nuggets didn't re-sign Bruce Brown when they had the chance to, he's getting paid $23 million. But Denver's one of those teams that I could just see like going after Bruce Brown again in some type of trade package. And I know that's kind of crazy, but it's happened before in the past where teams, like, they'll lose a good player. They like for example, like Golden State with losing Gary Payton II. You know, they let him walk, realized they shouldn't have let him walk, and then they traded for him back. I mean, he's still an injury-prone player, but like something similar to that. That's something that I could just see Denver doing. It's not going to be Kentavious Caldwell-Pope they get back, but Bruce Brown, or, you know, somebody like Bruce Brown, a Denny Avdia maybe. You know, like, I could just see them going after a piece that makes them better, but until I see that happening, or maybe even a Gary Trent Jr. Still in free agency, but until they make that move, to me, Denver is still a top 5 seed in the West, but they're not in the top 3 anymore. I think they're anywhere from 4 through 6. So right now I have them at 4th. Number 5 is the New Orleans Pelicans. Listen, man, picking up DeJounte Murray was a big fucking deal for them. They needed good point guard play. Yes, they gave up Dyson Daniels, but it's Dyson Daniels. They gave up Larry Nance Jr., but they got back DeJounte Murray, and a lot of their struggles that they had in the fourth quarter last year was scoring in clutch time. Like, I think, what was it? They lost every single game. I think they went into the fourth quarter trailing, and they can't have that. You know, now that they add DeJounte Murray, they add another playmaker. They lost Jonas Valanciunas, but I still think they're going to try to find a stretch big. I actually like the idea of them losing Jonas Valanciunas. I always thought he was a really, really weird fit for them next to Zion Williamson. Now you give Zion Williamson the paint. You still have Brandon Ingram. You still have CJ McCollum, who can still work as an off guard. Yes, CJ McCollum is not as fast as he used to be. You know, he's still, you know, he can still put people in a blender from time to time, but he works really well as an off guard who can still facilitate. So I like the idea of the pick and roll here with the New Orleans Pelicans. I like the idea of DeJounte Murray being there. DeJounte Murray is a guy that I feel like is going to get the opportunity to play a San Antonio Spurs type of role with the Pelicans rather than the Atlanta Hawks role he had, which means, like, I think DeJounte Murray is going to be a triple-double candidate again. Like, they're going to get triple-double DeJounte Murray and not, you know, 25 and 8 DeJounte Murray, because he's being asked to do something different in New Orleans, not be a primary scoring option. So, I mean, he's still going to be a scoring option, just not the main guy. He's going to be asked to facilitate the offense, where instead of, you know, backpack the entire fucking team, he's not going to be asked to do that. So, I like the New Orleans Pelicans being a top 5 seed ahead of the Dallas Mavericks. Like, I think the Pelicans have a really good roster. I like Herb Jones. Jones. I like Trey Murphy. Like, they just have a solid fucking roster. They still have Jose Alvarado, if I said that correctly. He's I think one of the most underrated point guards in the fucking league. Like, he's a dude that doesn't get much burn in the regular season, but come playoff time, dude goes fucking Super Saiyan. So I really, really like the roster the New Orleans Pelicans have put together. If they can find a stretch big that will come there, I don't have anybody off the top of my head immediately, but like, I know Miles Turner's kind of been a guy that's been in at least been floated out there by fans. I don't think the Pacers are going to trade Miles Turner to the Pelicans. They would have to really give us some crazy fucking offer, but Miles Turner would be ideal for them. But if they can find themselves a stretch big, I think they're going to at some point. I think New Orleans is easily a top 5 seed. They could even be ahead of Denver at this point, since they lost KCP and now they've also lost Bruce Brown. The Nuggets are starting to pay the toll for all the years that they've had a solid, decent team and, giving out contracts to guys. It's time to pay your fucking bill, and they're paying for it in the area of losing players, which is never good. New Orleans, I think, is a top 5 seed at this point in the West after the DeJounte Murray trade. I know that sounds kind of crazy to some people, but the Pelicans are dogs, man. They fight hard, and I like what they've put together. Number 6 is the Dallas Mavericks. Listen, man, Dallas is one of those teams that I get that they signed Klay Thompson. That was a big move for them. He's better than Tim Hardaway Jr. They still have Kyrie, still have Luka Doncic. However, I don't think Dallas has done enough to convince me that they can win an NBA championship. This is going to be another year where Luka Doncic puts up ridiculous fucking stats. They end up in the playoffs, but unless they finish as a top 3 seed in the West, which I just don't think is going to happen, unless they finish as a top 3 seed in the West, Luka Doncic I don't think is winning MVP. I don't think Dallas has enough to make a championship run. I think if they were going to this past season when they actually beat Minnesota to get to the finals, I think this past season was their opportunity to do that, and I feel like their window is going to close a little bit. Same thing with the Indiana Pacers getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's like that was your window, and now your window is going to close again, and you're going to have to find a way to open that window again. I feel like Dallas and Indiana are in the same boat where it's like you're going to have a kick-ass regular season, and like a lot of things are going to have to go right for you to get back in that conversation. Indiana, I think, and honestly, I think Indiana has better chances of doing that than Dallas does. Dallas, to me, it's like Derek Lively's very good. They have a lot of good players. Derek Lively was fucking phenomenal for them, but it's just the idea. I look at that roster and I just don't think they're deep enough. I just don't. Compared to the other teams in the West, I just don't think they're deep enough to do that. So there's Dallas. Number 7 is the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings, after trading for DeMar DeRozan, bringing back Malik Monk was very huge. They didn't, trading for DeMar DeRozan and only giving up Chris Duarte and 2 second-round picks to get him, to me, was fucking phenomenal. Okay, that's to me one of the greatest trades probably that they've ever done. Also, yeah, they had to get rid of Harrison Barnes, but DeMar DeRozan is better than Harrison Barnes all fucking day long, 7 days out of the week. DeMar DeRozan was also one of the best clutch players in the league this past year. He finished second only to Stephen Curry in clutch time, clutch player of the year voting. He gives them a legitimate threat down the, a legitimate threat down the stretch. Rhyming accidentally. You still have De'Aaron Fox. You still have Sabonis. You still have Monk. You still have Kevin Huerter. You still have Keegan Murray. Like, this is a team that has the ability to be very good. They could even be better than Dallas. Obviously, defensively, they're not better than Dallas. But what they lack on defense, they make up for on offense, which I think it has the ability to maybe move the Sacramento Kings up to a top 6 seed. But 6 through 8, or actually 6 through 9 is kind of a toss-up. So that's where I have Sacramento. Number 8, I have the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are a team that I feel like have not done a whole hell of a lot. They're a team that I think has a very, very weird fit. They haven't done anything to remedy their point guard problem. This is a team that has a lot of Chiefs and no Indians, if that makes any sense. They got Kevin Durant, they got Bradley Beal, they have Devin Booker, they have Josef Nurkic, okay? But they only have 2 guys on their roster that they're eligible to trade, and they haven't remedied their point guard problem. So long as they have not remedied that point guard problem, I am going to be low on the Phoenix Suns. I'm going to be a seller on them until they manage to fix that problem. So right now, they are the 8th seed in the Western Conference for me. Number 9 is the Golden State Warriors. People are going to be like, the fucking Golden State Warriors? They lost Clay. Yes, they did, but they picked up Kyle Anderson, and they picked up Buddy Hield, and even though Buddy Hield is not Klay Thompson defensively, offensively, at this point in his career, you could argue Buddy Hield is a better player than Klay Thompson offensively. As far as like just a movement shooter, a guy who can, like, Buddy Hield shot 42% on movement threes this past season, even like with the Pacers and like with the 76ers, he didn't play as well. I understand Buddy Hield is a complete fucking liability on defense, but the sets that the Warriors could run with Draymond Green at point guard and Steph and Buddy Hield coming off like backdoor screens and shit is just kind of a nightmare to think about. And I think people are not giving Golden State the type of credit they deserve for just landing Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield is a guy that I think is a good enough replacement to keep them competitive. And I like the addition of Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson's a good player. They still have Jonathan Kuminga. They still have Moses Moody. They still have that fucking dumpster fire of Andrew Wiggins that they might do something with. I don't know, but there's still potential that they could trade for Lauri Markkanen. If they trade for Lauri Markkanen, this is a team that I think could easily end up in the top 6 seed because Lauri Markkanen is just that fucking good. So Golden State's a toss-up at the moment. I have them at 9, but based on, depending on what happens for the rest of the offseason, they could move up as well. I got the Houston Rockets at number 10 because they are a solid unit. Alperen Şengün has arrived. The Rockets are very, very good defensively. They still have Fred VanVleet. They still have Jalen Green. What's his name? Cam Whitmore and Reed Shepherd have looked very good in Summer League. This is a team that has Tari Eason coming back. They got depth, dog, and they play defense. They do not fuck around on defense. Ime Udoka is a great head coach. This is a team that I think makes the playoffs as a play-in team. They are that good. This one, number 11, is probably going to be a little controversial. And people are going to say, how do I have them over the Lakers? And I understand that, but I got the Los Angeles Clippers. I think Harden and Kawhi are still good enough to get this team to the promised land. I feel like they've made some good sneaky pickups in free agency. Kevin Porter Jr., regardless of what you think about him off the court, the guy's a fucking baller on every level. Kevin Porter Jr. is a guy who can play point guard. He can play off guard. He's a really, really good player that I'm actually even shocked is getting a second chance in the NBA, but the Clippers are desperate. He's a sneaky good pickup. I like it. They brought back Nicholas Batum. They still have Zubac, who, think what you want about Zubac, but he's a bona fide, 10-10 guy. I do not think they are done. I do think there's more moves to be made, but so long as they have Kawhi and they have Harden, and they're bringing in guys. They still have Batum. They brought back Batum. Porter Jr. I think is a big deal for this. There's another guy that they got that I'm not thinking of at the moment. But the Clippers are a team that it's like they could move up or down this list. I really got to see what else they do this free agency. But for right now, I have them ahead of the Lakers. Honestly, looking at it, I could probably switch the Lakers for number 11 and the Clippers for number 12. That seems a little more logical. But my problem is, okay, well, I guess we'll get into this. I have the Lakers at number 12. My problem with the Lakers is they've been listening to LeBron James way too fucking long, and I feel like the longer they listen to LeBron, the worse this team gets. It just seems like they have not made a bona fide winning move in, since 2020? 4 years. Every move they've made has progressively made this team worse. You have a rookie head coach in JJ Redick. At least the Clippers have Ty Lue, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I have the Clippers where I have them. Right now, the Los Angeles Lakers are playing I don't know. We're just inviting guys to the cookout, and we're going to see what happens. Because I'm going to be honest, if they would have kept their head coach, as much as they hated Darvin Ham, at least if they would have kept Darvin Ham, I would be like, okay, at least you have somewhat of a solidified head coach, or if they would have hired somebody else, but hiring JJ Redick, it's a fucking toss up. There's going to be an adaptation period where people don't know where they're supposed to be on the court. Yes, the Lakers have a great roster. They brought back Russell, still have Austin Reeves, they have Braun, they have AD, they still have Rui Hachimura, like Jalen Hood-Schifino is coming back for a second year. But the problem is, so long as this team continues to listen to LeBron James, okay? And the other thing is, the Lakers are going to use a roster spot for Bronny James. I'm at a point now where it's like, if they're paying this dude $4.4 million, one of those roster spots is going to be for Bronny James. Like, I'm at a point now where I realize what's going on in Los Angeles, right? Even if Bronny James is a fucking G League player, okay? Bronny James is going to have a spot on this roster because Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss continue to listen to LeBron. So long as they continue to let LeBron control the chessboard and make his moves, Bronny James is going to be sitting on the end of that bench somewhere, okay? I mean, he got paid the most fucking money of a second-round pick ever in the history of the NBA at $4.4 million. So there's not a cold chance in hell to me that they're paying Bronny James $4.4 million to play in the fucking G League. Okay, so I think this. I honestly feel like there is way too much influence from LeBron James on this team, and that's why I put them at 12. Number 13, I have the San Antonio Spurs. This is a team that I'm very excited about. Victor Wembanyama. Malachi Branham is a guy that I'm very high on. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. Same with Keldon Johnson. Keldon Johnson is a fucking dog. Devin Vassell really went forward last year. Blake Wesley is a guy that I'm confident in. I don't know what's going to happen there, but the San Antonio Spurs are going to be a team that I think finishes ahead of Portland and Utah. San Antonio is like, as long as they got Wemby, like, they're not going to be the worst team in the West. It's just not going to happen. So long as they got Wemby and the guys that they got, I just don't think that's going to happen. Number 14, I got the Portland Trailblazers. They're a team that you could argue that they'll be higher, but I just don't think so. They're a team that's kind of just they're a mess at the moment. They don't have any direction. It seems like, they have Anthony Simons. They have Shaedon Sharpe. They have DeAndre Ayton. They have Matisse Thybulle, Robert Williams. Like, they have a lot of good players. It's just they don't have, like, any fit or any fucking direction. And that's kind of how I feel about Portland. It's like they're like, I don't know, the Chicago Bulls of the West Coast. It's like, you got a bunch of okay players, but not enough to actually do anything. And that's my stance on the Portland Trail. I think they finished 14th. And dead last is the Utah Jazz. And the only reason I have the Utah Jazz here and not in like 13th or 13th or 14th is because if they trade Lauri Markkanen, this team's, I think, going to be pretty bad. And it seems like they're pretty adamant about trading Lauri Markkanen. So, yeah, that's why I got Utah at 15th. I think they're going to finish dead last, especially if they trade Lauri Markkanen, and it seems like they're going to. Yeah, that's why I got them in last. If they get rid of Lauri Markkanen, I mean, they only won 31 games with Lauri Markkanen. If they get rid of Lauri Markkanen, there's a strong chance they don't even win 25 games. So that's where I'm at on that. Now, moving into the Eastern Conference. Number 1, Boston Celtics. This should be a no-brainer. Just won an NBA championship. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have arrived. They still have Porzingis, Derek White. They have Drew Holiday. They have, like, easily the best defensive team in basketball, I think, by a fucking mile, and it's not even close. We have Boston number 1. Number 2 is the challenger to them, and that's the New York Knicks. Picking up Mikal Bridges and bringing back OG Anunoby was really huge for them. They did lose Isaiah Hartenstein, but they're still, I think they're going to be a top 2 team in the East. I would be very, very surprised if the Knicks are not a top 2 seed in the East. They will, at the very least, I think, be top 3. But it's just the idea there will be a learning curve there. I don't think Jalen Brunson's going to be asked to score as much. I do think Jalen Brunson is going to be asked to be more of a distributor than a scorer this upcoming year. And the reason I say that is because you got a lot of mouths to feed now. You still have Dante DiVincenzo. You still have Josh Hart. You still have Mitchell Robinson, who's a potential trade candidate. You have or Julius Randle. You have OG Anunoby. You have Mikal Bridges. There's going to be a lot of mouths to feed on this offense. And I don't see Jalen Brunson averaging like 30 points a game again. I just don't. Not so long as there's this many people there. Jalen Brunson, still a great player, still going to be very good for them, still going to get the ball in his hands during clutch time, but I think with what's going on in New York, now that they have Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby and Julius Randle and, Dante DiVincenzo, Miles McBride, all these guys, okay, I just feel like you're going to see a potential decrease in scoring out of Jalen Brunson and maybe an increase in his assist numbers. So that's what I think about New York. Number 3 is Philadelphia. They brought in Paul George. I don't know what else I have to say. Their roster is pretty good. They have Tyrese Maxey. They have Joel Embiid. They've brought in some good players around them. They brought in some older guys like Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon went there. He's going to get play time. Eric Gordon seems to care more about like playing now than he does about money. Their roster, I haven't seen. They did draft, what's his name? Adam Bona, if I said that correctly, who looks fucking phenomenal, by the way, in Summer League. There's still more moves for the Philadelphia 76ers to do. They did bring back KJ Martin. They brought back Kyle Lowry. This is a team that's going to be very good. It's just they have a lot of old guys on their roster at this point. It seems like they're doing what the Lakers did, man. They signed 3 guys to astronomical contracts, and now they're just trying to put something around them that's serviceable. They don't even need something good. They just need something serviceable. And that's why I think this team is in the position that it's in. So yeah, I got them in 3rd. Number 4 is the Indiana Pacers. I'm going to get fried by non-Indiana Pacers fans for this, and that's perfectly fine. Bucks fans are going to be mad. Magic fans are going to be mad. Heat fans are going to be mad. Fucking Cavs fans are going to be mad. But Indiana, I think, as a roster, is better than the Milwaukee Bucks. Yes, the Bucks might have the better duo, okay? But I think as a team now, at this point, Indiana's better. I think, now that we got Siakam for locked in, I think we're done losing games to shitty fucking teams. That was a big problem last year where we would, win games against good teams but lose games against bad teams. Indiana bringing back Siakam is a huge deal. And at this point in their careers, I think Miles Turner is about the same level as Brook Lopez. I mean, don't quote me on it. As far as a shooter goes, obviously, Brook Lopez, I think, is a better shooter. But it's just the idea. Brook Lopez is getting old, boys, okay? Like, Brook Lopez doesn't have a lot of time left in the league, and I think that's going to be more they're going to be asking Giannis to do. Bobby Portis is still a good player, but this team took a step back defensively this past year, and I just think, even though I do think the duo of Giannis and Dame is going to be better, I think in the aggregate, when Indiana finally figures out who their third's going to be, I think it's going to be Benedict Mathurin. If I was a betting man, I'm going to say it's going to be Benedict Mathurin. But even if it isn't, the Pacers still have one of the best benches in the NBA, if not the best bench in the NBA. They brought back Obi Toppin. They still have TJ McConnell. Jarris Walker's looked fucking phenomenal in Summer League. They're a team that I think is going to be very good. They brought in James Wiseman, who I think is going to solve a lot of their problems at that backup center position. There's going to be a lot of growing in Indiana this upcoming year between Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin, James Wiseman, Isaiah Jackson. You also have Ben Shepherd. You have Aaron Nesmith. You have Benedict Mathurin. This is a team that's going to do a lot of growing, but I also think in that process of growing, they're going to do a lot of winning. I'm going to say this. Indiana, this upcoming year, I think will be what OKC was this past season. That's where I think Indiana's going to be. I think Indiana will easily be in the top 5, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but after looking at this roster, I'm just yeah, you know what? Milwaukee has a better duo, okay, between Dame and Giannis, but when it comes to a full team, I think Indiana's better. I think they're deeper than any other fucking team in the Eastern Conference aside from maybe the Boston Celtics. Okay, like, and even Boston and Indiana, as far as bench wise goes in the NBA, I think are pretty close. And even then, like, there's an argument to be made for Indiana. I mean, they still have Andrew Nembhard too. TJ McConnell's going to be coming off the bench in this bitch. I mean, it's just, and he was one of the best players in the playoffs. I mean, Indiana is in a very, very good spot, and I kind of understand at this point why they're staying where they are. So I got Indiana at 4. Number 5 is the Milwaukee Bucks. I already went over this with the Indiana take. I got Milwaukee at number 5. I think they win 50-plus games this year. They only won 49 this past year. I think they're like a 52, 53 win team, maybe even 55 win team. But it's just the idea, like, I think a lot's got to go right for Milwaukee to do that. And the Eastern Conference is tough. It's not going to be easy. Milwaukee really has to get their shit together to be ahead of Indiana. I'm not even kidding. Like, yes, their duo's great, but it's just the idea. Indiana beat them in the regular season last year, I think 3 out of 4 games, and that was with Giannis averaging 42 points per game. Indiana, legitimately, as a team, is better than Milwaukee. So, well, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what happens, but for right now, I'm taking Indiana over Milwaukee. Number 6 is the Orlando Magic. Listen, man, Orlando's a good team. They're really good defensively. They brought back Jonathan Isaac. They just signed Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, which was like their big fucking free agency signing. Paolo Banchero is very good. Franz Wagner just signed a huge extension. This is a good team. Jalen Suggs is very good. They're a good unit. The thing is, they're just really, really young. I still think they're going to be a top 6 seed in the East, primarily because Miami's starting to get older. But Orlando's still a solid team. They're a team that can finish anywhere 6 through 8, but I don't think they're going to be in the top 5 again. The East has gotten a lot better, and Orlando, all I'm saying is a lot of teams added a lot of shit in Orlando. All they added was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, which, yes, they did need that, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, don't think you did enough. Don't think you did enough to earn that nod into the top 5. So I got Orlando at 6, Miami Heat at number 7. Jimmy Buckets is still Jimmy Buckets. Bam Adebayo is still a Defensive Player of the Year candidate every year. They're going to have another year of Jaime Jaquez Jr. is very good. They still have Tyler Hero. They now have Terry Rozier. They're going to have a full year of Terry Rozier. They brought back Kevin Love. This is a team. They still have Eric Spoelstra, who's one of the greatest head coaches of all time. They are still a solid team. Like, I don't know why people are discounting Miami. I get it, but at the same time, I don't, because this is a team that's like, they just got to get into the playoffs. Like, that's the thing I keep reminding people every year. It's like, yes, Miami might not be an impressive regular season team. They might not be, okay? But once they get into the playoffs, if Jimmy Butler is fucking healthy, this team can do something. So that's why I have Miami at number 7. I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs. I think they're definitely, I don't even think they're a play-in team. I legitimately think they're going to end up in the top 8. So people can debate me on that all they want, but it's just the idea. I think that about Miami. Number 8 is the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is a team that has such an awkward fit going on with all the stars that they have, There was the Donovan Mitchell thing about him being traded. Darius Garland's coming back. He didn't have the greatest year. They still have Evan Mobley. They still have Jared Allen. I think they still have Karis LeVert. This is a team that, they're good. They still have Max Strus. They're a good roster. But their team has been kind of a clusterfuck the past couple of years. It's like, they have a bunch of good players, but it's all a really weird fit. And so long as that's the case, I think they're anywhere from 6 through 8, but I have them at 8 at the moment because it just seems like Orlando and Miami seem to have their shit together a whole hell of a lot more than Cleveland does. And Cleveland just got rid of J.B. Bickerstaff. I think they brought in Kenny Atkinson, if I'm correct. Don't quote me on that. He's a good coach, but, there's going to be an adaptation period there. So that's why I have Cleveland at 8, is just because of the head coaching change and all this other shit. Number 9, I have the Charlotte Hornets. What a shock. This is probably going to shock some people. Charlotte is a good fucking team, man. They're a team that fights. They play defense. I think having LaMelo Ball, if he can stay healthy, is going to be a big deal. Like, that's a big question mark for this team. But I think having LaMelo Ball out there with Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Mark Williams is just something to take note of. This is a team that is still growing, but I really like this core that they got growing. 9 in the Eastern Conference may be a little high for them, especially with Detroit picking up Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris. But they also have a new head coach, whereas Charlotte is not bringing in a new head coach. They're running it back with some of the guys that they actually didn't. Did Charlotte get a new head coach? I think they did. Hold on. Hornets new head coach. Charles Lee. Okay, so yeah, they did get a new head coach. But still, it seems like the players are buying in. I've seen enough summer league shit from them and stuff like that, and enough training camp videos to think, like, it seems like players are buying into Charles Lee. So I kind of like what this team is. I'm a little skeptical now about them at 9. I'd almost rather put Detroit at 9 and Charlotte at 11. But either way, like, both of those teams I think are in the 9 through 11 spot. Like, they're both playing teams. Like, that's where I'm getting at. So Charlotte at number 9, you could put Detroit there. Number 10, I have the Washington Wizards. They picked up Jonas Valanciunas. They still have Kyle Kuzma. They did trade Denny Avdia to Portland, which I think is kind of a huge deal because he was one of the best defensive players they had, if not the best defensive player they had. And I just don't think Jordan Poole has as shitty a year this upcoming year as he did last year. Last year, it's like they brought him in. It was the first time ever that he was like kind of the star of the show. They asked him to go out there and do some shit that he's not used to, I don't think. But the thing is, in the second half of the year, I think when they were bringing Jordan Poole off the bench, he seemed to just, I don't know, click better in that role. And Washington's a team that it's like, yeah, they're probably 11th. Like, if I could redo this list, I'd probably have Detroit number 9, Charlotte number 10, and Washington as number 11. But it's just the idea, like, 9 through 11 is a toss-up anyway. But Washington picking up Valanciunas, I think, was huge. They got him on what feels like a bargain deal. Jordan Poole, I think, is going to be better. I think Kyle Kuzma is going to be better. They're still a young team. Johnny Davis is a guy I'd like to see get some fucking burn at some point in his career, but it seems like Washington's already given up on that. So, I don't know, man. Like, Washington is just weird, but I have them at 10. At 11, I have the Detroit Pistons. They have J.B. Bickerstaff, a new head coach. Jaden Ivey is probably going to get more minutes this year. Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham are, I think, going to be like the stars of this team as far as guys, like young guys to look out for. Jaden Ivey could have a breakout year. Tobias Harris is there, I think, just as a vet. He's getting paid an ass ton of money to come in and be like their main guy to score. They brought in Malik Beasley, which is some shooting they desperately needed, a guy who's actually good. I feel like they got Malik Beasley on kind of like a bargain deal. So the Detroit Pistons have a lot of good stuff. It really depends on if JB Bickerstaff can make that work. That's the biggest issue with Detroit at the moment. I look at this team and I'm like, yeah, I like the talent they got. I love Jalen Duren. I think Jalen Duren has like Dwight Howard level potential. But it's just the idea, like, can JB Bickerstaff get that out of Jalen Duren? Remains to be seen, and I think he can. After seeing what he did in Cleveland with guys like Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, I think that's not outside of the realm of possibility. And I think Cade Cunningham's going to make an improvement this year too. But they're a team that I look at and I'm like, this team, what this team is really depends on JB Bickerstaff and how he plays it. So that's what I think about that. Number 12 is the Toronto Raptors. Not the greatest team in the world, but they still have Scotty Barnes. They still have, they just brought back Emmanuel Quickley. I think that was very, very big for them. Emmanuel Quickley was a guy that they absolutely had to re-sign, and they got it done. I think it was 5 years, $175 million. They also have RJ Barrett. They have Ochai Agbaji, who I think is very good. They have Grady Dick, who is very good. They still have Jakob Poeltl. So they're going to be a solid unit. It's just how solid remains to be seen. They're playing in a very tough conference, and even a team like Charlotte and Detroit is going to challenge them. So I don't see this team being any higher than a 10th seed. Like, Toronto's good, but they still have Bruce Brown, but they're probably going to use him as a trade piece. Toronto's a good team. Like, they got good players, but no direction at the moment, it seems, and that's the problem. So Toronto's, I got them at 12. Number 13 is the Chicago Bulls because, well, even with the shitty trades that they've made, I still think they're better than the Hawks and the Nets. Chicago is just a fucking mess at the moment. Mark Eversley needs to lose his job. They do have Josh Giddey now. They traded DeMar DeRozan for 2 second-round picks. Like, this is a team that just got significantly worse. They lost Alex Caruso for fucking nothing. Lonzo Ball, we don't even know if he's going to play for them. Zach LaVine's a guy that, now it seems like Chicago today has kind of accepted the fact that they're not getting rid of Zach LaVine. They have to keep him. The Chicago Bulls, I think it was the head coach or the GM or somebody came out and said, yeah, he can be a huge contributor next year, AKA we couldn't fucking get rid of him, so we have to keep him. Chicago, I'm not high on them. I have them 13th in the Eastern Conference out of 15 teams. Number 14 is the Atlanta Hawks. I understand they have Trae Young. I understand they have Jalen Johnson. I understand they have Onyeka Okongwu and DeAndre Hunter and all this, but this team sucks at fucking defense. It is terrible at defense. They could not defend a parked car with a fucking Uzi, okay? Atlanta's defense is fucking terrible. And the idea that they've lost DeJounte Murray and decided to go with Trae Young, which I thought was stupid regardless. I thought they should have just kept DeJounte Murray and tried to trade Trae Young. I understand that was hard to do. But this is a team. They lost Sadiq Bey. There's just... where did Sadiq Bey go? Did he go back? Sadiq Bey. Did he... Hold on. Contract. I know he signed a 3-year contract. Yeah, he went to the Wizards. Okay, so I was right. Yeah, they lost Sadiq Bey. It's just... This is a team that is just lost stuff and has not gotten any better. And as much as I want to like Atlanta, they just keep making moves that makes me hate them. So, I don't know. And they trade what they got back for DeJounte Murray felt like pennies on the fucking dollar for what they gave up to get him. Just fix your fucking franchise, okay? If you're an Atlanta Hawks fan, just please send a strongly worded letter to your team owner or your GM or something. Just fix it, okay? Same thing with Chicago. If you're a Bulls fan, do the same thing. Write a strongly worded letter to Mark Eversley, and maybe he'll fucking quit. I don't know, and Brooklyn's dead last. They gave up Mikal Bridges. This is going to be a season of development for them. They're probably just going to sit Ben Simmons the entire year or try to trade him for something. I don't know, but now that they got rid of Mikal Bridges, this will legitimately be the worst team in the Eastern Conference. Cam Thomas is a good player, but he's not a great player. Ben Simmons is a guy, it's he plays depending on which way the fucking wind blows. It's just... The Brooklyn Nets are a mess, and they have Dorian Finney-Smith, who's a guy they're probably going to trade. Cam Johnson is another guy they're probably going to trade who's injured all the fucking time. The Nets are in a position where I think they are legitimately the worst team in the Eastern Conference. Just because they got rid of Mikal Bridges, they got a haul of draft picks for him, so they're not looking to be good anyway. If the Brooklyn Nets don't trade Dorian Finney-Smith and Cameron Johnson by the time the regular season has started, I would be very shocked. It's very obvious they want to be in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. With the amount of draft picks that they have, it makes sense anyway. Even Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas is even a guy that I'm if a team offers them the right amount of draft picks, Cam Thomas could even be gone. Brooklyn's my team that I got in dead last. So... tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on this. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report. And I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.